Yeah, it's
it's
cold.
extremely cold,
Yeah,
and it's not as convenient, obviously,
correct.
where we have 365 days of good weather in Trinidad.
Yes.
But definitely just finding the why of doing something, as you said, really, like if I focus on, even if it's not swimming, exercising for my back, and
Mm-hmm.
let that be my personal why,
Yeah.
it should actually keep me more motivated to continue doing it.
Yeah.
So
That's correct. You just got to
definitely.
find out why you're doing it. And you can have multiple whys. And if one why doesn't get you to get up and go today, it might be the other why. So just
Right.
always get back to that place. That's like your base. Your base is your why. And then you everything else builds off of that.
Apart from having a why, do you have any other sort of tips that you give people on how to stay motivated, especially now?
Forget motivation.
Okay.
That's my
Forget
first tip.
motivation.
Forget
Okay.
motivation. Forget motivation. Motivation is such a waning thing. You can be
Hmm.
like super motivated today and not give a shit to, not give a crap tomorrow. Sorry. So it's really about scheduling and planning and executing, right? You plan, you execute, you start slowly walking towards your goals, then you become a little bit motivated to keep going. Never let
Okay.
motivation be your genesis, because when you're not motivated, it will never happen.
That is
Always be
true.
strategic about it. So I am a very strategic person. So for me, it's all about the planning, right? You
Right.
plan, you say, okay, this is what I'm doing this week. This is how I'm eating this week. This is how I'm working out this week. This is what these exercises is what are what I'm going to do. Um, and once you stick to that schedule and it becomes a bit of, I don't want to say a regimen because that sounds a little bit too structured, but
Right.
once it becomes a routine, then that routine leads to success. And that success makes you feel good, makes you want to continue. So start with planning and execution versus relying wholly and solely on motivation, because it comes and goes, right? And when you are doing or pursuing something like your health and your fitness, even though you're going to have ups and downs, you don't want to base that thing on a very shaky foundation.
Right.
So, yeah, forget motivation. Tip number one.
Trini Pearl says, apart from having a why, it's also important to enjoy what you do.
Correct.
And Benjamin says, you can have more whys with your people.
So that's a good point. And that ties back into why it's personal, right? Some people like dance fitness. Some people like
Okay.
strength training, like myself. Some people like running. Some people like biking. I don't like biking, right? Find the things that you like to do. If it's something that you like to do, the chances of you doing it repeatedly is a lot higher than having to really push yourself and force yourself to do something you absolutely hate. So again, that ties back into fitness being personal, right? You're going to have
Right.
your personal likes. You're going to have the things that you prefer doing over others. If you can find that thing, pursue that thing. I love strength training, but when my friends, or like, perfect example, the very last class we had before we they locked everything down, one of my clients, she brought a friend to the class. And at the end, she sat with me and she said, listen, I really don't like this type of stuff. I like dance fitness. So I was like, okay,
Right.
hey, I'm going to connect you with a trainer buddy of mine he really specializes in dance fitness. He does a lot of dance stuff. Here's his information. Like, I will never force someone to do something they do not like, because it's not
Help
sustainable.
achieve. Right, the
Yeah.
goal. Um, and Trini Pearl also says that it may also help to acknowledge and celebrate your small milestones. So I think that is
That
extremely deep. And I think that this conversation could be extrapolated beyond fitness and just your
Yep.
general life.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's like so much deeper than fitness, right? Because when you are able to say to yourself, and I'm going to keep using my clients as an example. Yesterday I had a one-on-one session, and I believe we were doing an overhead press, and she was at a weight that she had not used before. And I stopped and I said, hey, do you realize what you just did? Right? You have to stop and applaud the very simple achievements, not even simple, I wouldn't even call it simple, the achievements that you are making, no matter how small. Even though you may not achieve your big long-term goal, because we have the big long-term goal and we have small goals in between. And if you don't, you
Right.
should have small goals in between. You want to celebrate along the way. And that sort of helps with the motivation part, right? When
Right.
you start making those little accomplishments, it motivates you to keep going.
That is
But you have
true.
to plan and execute, plan and execute.
So what are some of the health benefits that
Mhm.
you know that comes from exercising? I know we sort of touched on a few before.
Mhm. Well, you're a doctor, so you could definitely expand on this more than I could. I could tell you, and I'll use myself as an example, even though I don't want to get too anecdotal.
Right.
Um, it's just good for chronic diseases, to try to combat chronic diseases, especially for Black folks like us, where high blood hypertension, diabetes, things that
Diabetes.
are easily managed or avoided by proper nutrition and exercise, that our community tends to suffer from a whole lot. That's one of the benefit, avoiding chronic illnesses. And when you
Right.
like, sometimes people say, oh, well, I just have high blood pressure. But something like this that happens, corona, right? And
Mhm.
then they talk about underlying conditions putting you more at risk for not recovering in a
Right.
healthy, a quicker way. It becomes something a little bit more deadly, right? So
That's true.
having good underlying health is super important. I For me, when I started, and it became like a hindsight 2020 thing. I had gone to my doctor, I think in December of 2017, didn't go back for my results. She did all the blood work. And then January of 2018, I had committed to myself. Listen, I had gained all this weight while in college, and I needed to lose it. So I committed myself, and I'm like a dog with a bone. Once I'm focused on something, I'm focused on something.
Okay.
So for 6 months, I was diligent with my food. I was diligent with my exercise. Well, for more than 6 months. Um, but I went back to her and I'm like, hey, I know I didn't come back for my results, but I'm here for my next checkup. And she said to me, she's like, oh, your numbers are really, like, once I went back again for the results, because she took my blood that time, went back for the results. She said, and she's looking at my then results, to the prior results. She said, did you realize that you were pre-diabetic? And I'm like, no, I
Mhm.
actually didn't know. But you're like, oh, you're fine now. So I sort of fixed a problem that I did not know I
Right.
had through diet and exercise,
That
proper
is true.
nutrition and exercise. So it's really about the underlying health and feeling strong. For some people, it's about aesthetics. If that's your thing, fine. For me, it's also a part of the thing.
Right.
Um, but you need to, again, look deeper than just the fitness part of it. It's about your health. It's about your life, because that's what it
Right.
boils down to, your life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And to expand on what you say, definitely in the medical field, we see a great improvement in diabetes and hypertension with people who exercise. And the
Mm-hmm.
first step when you're diagnosed with diabetes and or hypertension, in mild cases, obviously, the first step, we don't even usually prescribe medication if it's mild. The first
Okay.
thing we prescribe is actually diet and exercise. And a lot of people, if they stick to this, could actually be maintained without progressing to need medication. Some
Mm-hmm.
people, if they present and it's already severe, obviously, you would need to get diet, exercise, and medication. But a lot of people could actually get away with just diet and exercise if they stick and commit to it.
Yeah.
Even in the OBGYN world, for patients with polycystic ovarian syndrome experiencing infertility that may be overweight or obese, the first step that we also prescribe is not medication, not
Mm-hmm.
IVF treatment, but once again, diet and exercise. And a modest decrease in rate of 5 to 10% of your total body weight could cause a drastic improvement in your fertility, just from weight loss of like
Mm-hmm.
five, as minimal as 5 to 10% of your weight. So we do see aspects of diet and exercise really having an important aspect on chronic diseases, as well
Mm-hmm.
as if you're trying to get pregnant, it also can help with infertility, improve
Mm-hmm.
infertility, and make you
Mm-hmm.
more fertile. So there are a lot of benefits beyond the aesthetics
Mm-hmm.
of maintaining fitness. Um, but just overall health.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I know a lot of women who have PCOS,
Right.
and wanted to have children and struggled with it, and said the first thing their doctor said was lose a couple of pounds first before
Yeah.
we go into trying all these other things like IVF, IUI, and all these medical sort of interventions. Um,
Right.
it's not always the easiest thing, because as far as you can correct me if I'm wrong, it's a little bit challenging to actually lose weight while you have PCOS.
It's a little bit challenging.
To lose
Yes,
weight,
it can be
yes.
challenging. Yes.
So that it's a big mental struggle for a lot of people. But yes, it's definitely sometimes the first step in correcting um, the illnesses that we can correct through nutrition, proper nutrition, and exercise.
Proper nutrition.
Mhm.
Yes, definitely. I just want to see if anybody has any questions. I'm just going to scroll quickly. Oh, we have comments though.
Mhm.
We have Chow Fit talking
Hi.
about how exercise triggers the release of endorphins, which, yeah, and endorphins is kind of like that what makes you feel happy and makes you feel
Happy.
motivated, make you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
So that is a good point that I actually didn't even think to mention just now.
Oh no, absolutely.
Um,
You can tell when I exercise because I'm always in a good mood in the morning. If I
yeah,
work
way better mood.
out. My boyfriend is always like, "Oh, you're in a good mood." I'm like, "Yeah, I actually got to work out this morning, so it helps."
Somewhere on the A train. I like that username. Somewhere on the A train. Anyway, somewhere on the A train says that she agree. Well, I don't know if it's a she or he, but somewhere in the A train agrees with celebrating all milestones, to help you keep going and get you to the next level, and for
Mhm.
all things, not just fitness. So yeah, I definitely agree with all of this. And for me, I have to make a better concerted effort. I think I need to really internalize my why, because
Yes.
I have not been great at all during this time in
Mhm.
terms of fitness. I think I went running once
Mhm.
and I did a yoga session once, and I think
Mhm.
that's the extent of the exercise that I've really gotten during this quarantine. So that's why, even for me, it was an ultimate important having you here today to
Mhm.
just try and like refresh the things that I should be doing.
And find a community, like something that Benjamin mentioned in the comments before. But if you find people who are on the same path in terms of fitness like you guys can like rely on each other. Like um get somebody who can text you and say, "Hey, you want to go for a social distancing run, walk in Prospect Park, or
Right,
you want to let's take a video, like let's both do like an online class together." Because then in the online class you see everybody on the screen, and
right.
it's all of it also helps to have a good social circle, like a good social support, because people who have good social support tend to stick to their their, I don't want to say their goals, but stick to the activities a lot more
Right.
than people who feel like they're going it alone, right? It's easier to always go with people than to do it by yourself. So if you can find a good community, whether it's one person, two people, it doesn't have to be somebody that personally, because I've
Mm-hmm.
met a great deal of people through Instagram, actually, all connected through fitness, and like I see them posting and they're like, "Oh, I just went to the park and I ran today," and it just reminds me that, okay, this is something that I need to schedule and this is something that I need to do.
Right. I think for me, sometimes it works better with people that I'm less familiar with, because I do have a friend who calls me very frequently, "Hey, let's go for a run." And
Hmm.
I'm like, I always have, it's much easier giving an excuse when,
Got it.
I guess, once you don't focus on your why, and then two, when you're very comfortable with the person to say no.
No.
You know, when I was actually using the gym, I used to schedule purposely a personal trainer. So it makes me
Ah.
feel more, set that, yes, I'm going to show up today, and, someone else is there, waiting and expecting me. And that made it easier for me. So now I have to modify, my own thinking to make it work at this time, because really it's not an excuse,
Hmm.
being unfit during this time. And as you said earlier before, we're seeing that specifically with Corona, people who have underlying health conditions are more prone. So that in itself should be, somewhat of a
A wake
reason
up.
to stay fit.
Because we tend to just it is what it is, right? Somebody
Yeah.
has diabetes, whoop-de-doo, that's not news. But in situations like these, it's like it's actually more than just something you should accept as just being, right? Your life could be on the line here. So you definitely want to prioritize your health in your life. And even if it means just walking around the block for 15 minutes, or, you know, walking up and down your building stairway or your house stairway, just get moving. You never want to
Right.
just stay sedentary. And, you know, like you, a lot of people when they, because I also teach at Crunch, um, and I used to personal train at Crunch. A lot of people would sign up for personal training because they have somebody to hold them accountable. So
Yes.
accountability is definitely up there, whether it's being accountable to yourself or to someone else. Um, Whichever way you need, plan that you need to implement to keep going, then that's what you should do.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So I know that you have a couple exercises here for us today.
Yes.
Okay, I'm
And
gonna set my phone down.
okay, so by Chow Fit, one of the things I want to I want to demonstrate, because we see a lot of this on Instagram, or a lot of this around. All these people talk about core, and I wanted to just speak quickly about the importance of having a strong core, right?
Okay.
Our core is anything between here and our neck and our hip. So
Right.
it's the lumbar, pelvic hip complex. So everything between your neck and your hips, right? Your pelvis.
Right.
So yep. So you want to make sure that that area is nice and strong, because that is the place that all movement derives from. So whether you're
Okay.
running, you're walking, you're strength training, if you do not have a strong core, you're putting yourself at risk for injury. That's one. And then two, one of the things you want to think about is what's more effective versus just doing a bunch of sit-ups, because that only really targets one area, is getting into core exercises that are dynamic and are unstable, right? So you have to push yourself past your threshold of, because core and balance are sort of interloped, where um, you are pushing yourself past that limit to help make yourself stronger, right?
Okay.
So you want to get past a place where you're comfortable. And so we'll demonstrate three of my favorite core exercises that can be modified either up or down. So make it harder or make it a lot easier if you are
Okay.
not there just yet. And you can play with different variables. You can play with the items that you're using. You can play with your time, like how you time yourself. You can play with stability, whether the ground is stable or unstable. And I'm going to get my I have Vanna over here.
A little demonstrator.
Yes, we have a little bit of we have a demonstrator here. Can I flip my phone? Yes, I can. So first move that I'm going to show, or he's going to show, is, come on.
I'm not gonna say I'm not. Oh, I was like wondering if it was me. I was like, I'm not seeing him. Okay.
So the first thing that we're going to do is plank. So come down to the floor, Ben. Come
Okay.
down to the floor. Um, And what we want to do is, so I'm going to start with the modifier, knees on the floor. So knees on the
Okay. I'll
floor,
do that.
right? And your elbows are bent at 90.
Okay.
Your shoulders, and I'm going to point, are your shoulders directly stacked over your elbow.
Okay.
There's a straight line from your head all the way down to your tailbone. And your feet, your toes are tucked.
Okay.
So what you want to do is also press your elbow into the floor as if you are tensing your upper body. You're trying to round your upper back. You want to tilt your pelvis backward. Keep your abs contracted. Squeeze your thighs, squeeze your glutes. And then you want to hold it for, you want to first test yourself to see how long you can hold for before falling out or going to failure. And then what you want to do is to keep adding time to make yourself better. So first you may only get to 10 seconds. Then you
Right.
keep working towards 15 seconds and 20 seconds and 30 seconds. And then you're up to a minute. For me, once you're up to a minute, you have to start adding, or you should start making this a little bit more challenging for yourself. So you can go from your knees, and I'll show the full plank. So you come up from your knees, right? And you're either in high plank, drop your butt just a little bit. There we go. Push your arms into the floor. There we go. That looks good, Janelle. And you want to keep your face down and keep a neutral neck, right? So straight line from head to heel. Straight line from head
Okay.
to heel. So you can do this from the high position where you're up on your palms, or you can get down to your forearms and you're in this position, right? And if I come over and I were to push him, I should feel some resistance, right?
Right.
So you want to create tension in your body. You don't want to just be hanging there. It's an active movement, even though you're keeping still,
Right.
right?
I'm just
So
gonna
that's
pull it up on my computer so I can see clearer.
movement number one. You can relax. So that's your plank, right? And before plank, you also want to make sure you warm up your shoulders properly, and there's good shoulder mobility, because it does put a lot of, um, you know, stress on your shoulders. So
Right.
second move would be the bird dog. So you are in tabletop position. And again,
Okay.
you want your joints stacked. So your shoulders are stacked over your elbows and your wrists, right? Your feet are about hip width apart. Your knees are stacked directly under your hips. Tuck your toes, back is flat, right? So come forward just a little bit more, right? Bring your knees back so that they're directly under your hips. Janelle, there you go. And then you want to opposite arm, opposite leg, extend your arm out, right? Hold your balance. You want to count to maybe 3, 3, 2, 1. Pull it back in and extend. And then while you do this move, one of the things that you want to ensure is that your hip stays square to the floor. So as you kick your leg out, you might be inclined to turn your hip out to the side for balance. You want to make sure that hip is square to the ground. And you can do this for about 8 reps on each side and maybe 3 rounds. So that's your bird dog. And this helps because you're unstable on opposite arm, opposite leg.
Right.
It works the areas that we consider your core. Again, from your neck down to your hips, your pelvis. Last move would be the dead bug, which is my favorite. Oh, wait, one more thing. So variation of the bird dog, you can have a weight, a very light weight in your hand. Well, that's a very heavy one. But you can have a very light weight in your hand as you extend forward, right? Add a little bit more strength to that. You can use a resistance band, or you can use a dumbbell or a kettlebell. I love kettlebells. I'm a big, huge kettlebell fan. So that's a way to progress something like this. So dead bugs.
So wait, the modification obviously is for somebody who wants a little more resistance and a little
Correct.
more advanced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, you want to challenge yourself a little bit more, because over time, as you get stronger, you want to keep pushing the limits of your strength and your balance, and your core strength. So that's why you would take it up a notch. So dead bugs. We just did bird dogs. Now we're doing dead bugs. So we're flat on our backs, right? We're bringing our knees up. We're bending our knees at 90. Knees directly over your hips. Again, you always want your joints stacked. Arms in the sky. And then opposite arm, opposite leg. There's so many different ways to do this, but my favorite starting point is releasing the opposite arm, the opposite leg, bringing it back to center, and then switching sides.
Okay.
But you want to make sure, yep. And the thing I like about dead bugs, it's also very, it's a mental coordination challenge, right?
Right.
Because we often forget that some physical activity challenges your mental coordination. So once you release the leg and the hand, the two that are up should stay stacked, should not move forward or back from where you are, right? So extend, and you'll feel this. It's there we go. Mental coordination. There you go. So you have to
When
really
you
think about it.
when you extend your legs, is it going flat to the ground?
It's not, it's hovering. You just straightening your leg and you're hovering towards the floor. Um, you don't necessarily have to touch it to the floor. You shouldn't actually. What I would do is how I start people off if they're having an issue remembering opposite hand, opposite leg. I get a stability ball. I have them press their palms and the top of their thighs into the stability ball and have them release one by one. It allows for them to remember to keep the opposite arm and leg stationary, because then the ball falls. So those are my three favorite moves. You just have to keep your, as you bring the, keep your knees stacked over your hips. So even as you move the other leg forward and flat, the leg that stays should not move, should be stationary, right? And you look down a little bit and you can see that your knees are not directly over your hips, so you have to adjust forward just a little bit. So you can take the arm out of it. You can do same side arm, same side leg. You can add weights. You can bring your shoulders off the floor. It really depends on what you need or where you're at. Because a part of training is training in a very systematic way. You just don't want to do things that your body is not ready for. And I think one of the things people need to think about is to take ego out of exercise. Right. Because it's supposed to be strategic and it's supposed to be smart. So there's a, like, plyometrics, right? I love plyometrics. But if you don't have a strong core, you should probably not be doing plyometrics yet, right? Yeah. It's foundational. So you build a strong core, you build strength, and then you can start jumping around and moving around, because part of plyometrics is being able to accelerate and decelerate in a very safe and in a very safe and strong, controlled manner, right? And if you don't have a strong core, those things are not in play, so you put yourself at risk for injury. So if you should not be doing like box jumps and all those things if you haven't mastered the things that are the basis for those types of movements, which is why I always encourage people to get a personal trainer. I know it's, for some, it's a bit of an expense, but we are trained to be able to train you in a way that's very specific to your body and where you are in terms of your quote unquote, the things that you need help with. I don't want to use the word deficiencies, but your imbalances, right? Whether it's your muscle imbalances, whether it's your core strength, whether it's your balance, you have to train, you should train in a very structured way.
So doing these three exercises, what was the repetition amount for them?
So for a plank, you can time it. It's a matter of time. So you can start off with where you can take yourself and work yourself up to like about a minute, right? When you get to that minute point is when you can start like progressing the exercise. So you can do a plank with a hand raise. So you're planking on one arm while you raise the other, or you plank on a ball, right? A stability ball, which sort of has, you know, make you shake around. So it's like taking it to another level. For the second one, for the bird dogs and the dead bugs, the rep range are about the same. You can do 8 to 10 reps on each side, and you can repeat for 2 to 3 rounds depending on your time. And I always like to do core before I start doing strength, So I would warm up, do some core exercises, and then get into my strength workout.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So next time we have to talk more about the strength exercises because these were the cores, right?
Yeah.
So would you say for somebody who's starting off, just doing these 3 exercises 3 to 5 days a week would be sufficient to start, like be sufficient to start exercising or?
I think they should be a part of your toolkit. There
Okay.
are a few others that I can think of that I would put in somebody's toolkit, like Superman's, right? That targets
Mhm.
the backside, right? I would
Okay.
add Superman's in. I would add Inchworms, which is where you come from a standing position. Let me show you. Um, so yeah, the Inchworm workouts. Yep, walk out to plank. Like you bend at your knees or you keep your knees straight. You walk out to plank position, and then you walk your arms back in towards your feet.
Okay.
But those should be a part of your toolkit more so than sit-ups and
Right.
crunches, um, because studies do show that these dynamic types of core exercises are definitely more effective in getting you towards having a strong core than just the stationary trunk movements,
And
because
for
it's
me,
more than just
sit-ups
the
it
trunk.
causes a lot of strain on my neck, so I know I do it wrong.
No, it's actually an exercise that could cause strain in your neck.
Oh,
Well, also if you do it wrong, but um, they're just more effective ways of doing it. And even a lot of my strength programming when I work with clients or even my group fitness classes, you'll find us doing a bunch of overhead work.
right.
And that also adds a level of instability that forces your core to engage in a way that it wouldn't engage in if the weights were to your side. And all those little tweaks help you build a strong core.
Oh, good.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joanna, before we wrap up, can you tell us a
Sure.
little bit about your business? And then also, you mentioned that you had like a free class, and let us know how we can access that as well.
Okay, so but my business is called my baby business. um, it's called Project Shed, and it's again, it's more about weight loss. It's less about weight loss, but more about the gains that you get through fitness and exercise. The mental gains, the physical gains. You're stronger, you're healthier, you're more empowered because that's the mental um, strength that comes from
Right,
working through things that you didn't think you could do or your body could do. And you're just more driven, right?
right.
So that's where Project Shed came from. And we have a class. So I used to do classes every Sunday in Prospect Heights. So finally, I transitioned to the online, the virtual classes. And we meet every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. If you click the
Okay.
link in my bio, you'll find a link to register for that class. You sign up, it's free. And then every Saturday morning, like tomorrow, I send an email out. I give everybody the meeting link, meeting password, 9:30 a.m. Voila, you're working
Oh, nice.
out. And you're working out with a community of men and women
Right.
whose main goal is to stay active.
That is great. So I would actually, I'm gonna write your and I'll also send a video for people so that they know where they can find you. It's also
Okay.
linked to the ad. It's
Mm-hmm.
Project Shed LLC. You see it? Is that correct?
Yep, at Project Shed
Okay.
LLC. And I have a website, projectshedllc.com.
Oh, I love that. It makes it easier.
Yep.
Being the
I
same
kept it
thing.
consistent.
Yes. So anything else you want to tell anyone at home who's at any different stages on the fitness journey? Anything that you want to like share with them before?
Yeah, I think the main thing I want to share is just start. Um, work through work through the mental blockages that you have and just start where you are. Do not be discouraged by what you see other people doing or be discouraged by what you think other people are doing that you can't do. Everybody started at day one. Not nobody was born being good at this stuff. Nobody,
With a six pack.
right? Everybody starts at day one. It's just that today is your day one. So
Right.
keep that in mind. Remember, keep your eye on the prize, right? Keep your eye on the prize. Celebrate those small wins that you make along the way. Um, Yesterday I had to run back. I was in the grocery store and I had to run back because the guy dropped my sushi. I had to go get another one. And
Oh.
I'm running and I'm like, whew, this is hard. But I know in a few months, I'm not going to feel that way. So you just have to
Right.
remind yourself, it is not, if you keep putting in the work, it is not for forever. You're going to progress. You're going to see gains. You're going to feel better. You're going to be able to run longer, hold a plank longer, lift heavier. You're going to get to where you need to go. You just have to start.
Just start. Mm.
Just start. Plan and execute. Plan it out, execute it.
And I love that. It said it's a collaboration, not a competition. I,
Correct.
I love that.
Yeah, it's not,
So,
it's you against you. And it's the most cliche thing you might ever hear in fitness, but it's really you against you. You today versus you yesterday.
right.
You know, so just start. And if you need help, ask for help, right? People are afraid to say, hey, I can't do this. Ask for help. Like, nobody expects me to deliver my own baby. Like, I was not trained for that stuff. I
That's
am
where
gonna
I come
call,
in.
I'm gonna call Janelle. I'm gonna say, hey, I'm ready to have this baby, which I'm not. Um, can I start seeing you? Because you are the subject matter expert, right?
Right.
Find the subject matter expert in the thing that you want to do and ask for help. So we are here as fitness professionals to assist you when you need help. So if you need help, just reach out to me. No judgment. You could pull any of my clients. I am very, very much a judgment-free zone. I take
Right.
people for where they are, where they're starting from, and it's very individualized because fitness is personal.
Right.
So yeah.
Thank you so much,
No, thank
Joanna. I
you. I
really
like what
enjoyed
you're
this.
doing. I love what you're
Oh,
doing. And thank you for having me. I was able to catch Joelle's presentation on Monday. I work was kind
right.
of crazy, so I missed the rest. But I am going to be tuned in. I'm going to be sharing your lives because I think it's very helpful because it's like a holistic approach to the person, right? It's not just
Yes.
about fitness. It's about your health. It's about your mental health. It's about your finances, the things that make you feel good as a person. So you
Right.
talk to the whole person. So that's
And
good.
that's what I wanted to do because initially, I mean, obviously my content still is more geared to obstetrics and gynecology,
Mm-hmm.
but I wanted to appeal to the overall person and
Yeah.
to help elevate the overall person because I mean, not everyone, even people trying to get pregnant, not everyone is trying to get pregnant all the time.
Yeah.
Or, you know, especially at this time, some people may want to defer pregnancy and it's like, what else can we do?
Mm-hmm.
We're home. A lot of us probably not working or not
Mm-hmm.
doing something consistently every day. What else could we do? And initially, I would tell you, my quarantine, staying home started much later than most people. I was
Yeah.
working consistently before that
Mm-hmm.
as an essential worker. And when I was home for my first week of being home consecutively, it was difficult. And I remember before this, I was saying, I don't know what people are complaining about. I would love to be home. If I was home, I'd do A, I'd do B, I'd do C. And I was boasting of all the things I'd do when I was home. And then I was home and I did
And then
nothing.
and
I
that's the
wasn't
thing.
motivated to do one thing. And this by the second week, I woke up and I was like, this is not me. Like I'm a very active person. I
Mm-hmm.
usually, you know, I'm out, I go to restaurants, I go
Mm-hmm.
here, I go there. And I was like, I need to find something to do because if I can be prone to this, and I thought that myself as a very
And me
driven,
too.
ambitious person, I was like, I can see now why people were complaining about this months before. I just didn't know. So I was like,
Yeah.
let me think of something I can do to bring people together to motivate them. And I realized and I know that I'm not an expert in everything. So that's why I'm collaborating with all of you guys who are expert in your
Perfect.
own fields
Yeah.
to try and bring this as much as possible to everyone. And I hope that people are being inspired one way or the other
Yeah.
and educated. And even if I just reach out to one person, I would have fulfilled my goal.
I say the same thing. Like if I don't like if one person walks away from this, taking action, then we have done a great job, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to, you don't have to reach masses of people to do a good job. You can reach just one person who needed to be reached, and your job is done. Keep doing that every day. So thank you for what you're doing, and thank
Thank
you for
you.
having me on. I appreciate it. Two Trini girls.
Oh, which part of Trinidad are you from?
Laventille, ma'am.
I'm from the south.
What part?
Originally from Maribel, and now my family lives in the MacDean, Couva area.
Okay.
You
Not
don't know south?
much the south. No. My family is from Faizabad, so I know
Okay.
south. Like I used to go down there every summer, but that's the only area in south I know really.
Okay, so that's way further south than where I'm
Yeah,
from.
south and Erin. I used to have some family in Erin,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, way south.
Way south.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. You see, I have my
Thank you.
Trinidad
Yes,
Eric.
I saw it.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed the session. I am actually going to right now, as we end this live, do my little workout that you showed me because I
Okay.
know for myself I haven't been doing anything, and I was like, you know what, today's going to be the day I start. So we'll start back.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Joanna, for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
would love to have you another time and we can go through different exercises and different benefits
Absolutely.
of
I would love to talk more.
exercising. You know, I really enjoy the fact that, you know, at least one person I know you are enjoying the series. So I thank you all for joining us. Stay
Uh-huh.
tuned for what next week will hold. Thank you
Yes.
very much, Joanna. I'll
Thank
see
you
you
very
next
much,
week.
Dr. Jackman.
Oh,
Bye.
and you can catch this 24 hours on my Instagram story or my
Okay.
YouTube channel. I will upload the session. It's Janelle Jackman MD on YouTube. Okay.
Thank you.